Good morning. Late, I had technical difficulties. My computer froze. The mouse, I couldn't even find the mouse. It was kind of weird. Anyway, I'm sure I can get comments from 1,500 techies. They'll tell me what that means. It means it's an old laptop from 2016, is what it means. Okay, so without further ado, so here we are back at the 6700 test, and yesterday we even half joked that, oh, we'll see 6700 sooner rather than later. Well, we didn't quite see 6700, but we saw 67, 66, 98, 88 or something. 69, 98, 88. So 1.12 points away. Close enough for government work. Okay. And what happened yesterday, I just kind of want to point it out because it was a good learning lesson. So in the morning, we opened around 50, wherever we opened, I don't really remember exactly. We kind of went right up to the 67, 70, 80, this chop zone area. Now, in the morning, we had customers, sold calls, positive gamma in the 70, 75 area. And when we opened, we kind of pulled back a little, by the way, just a little bit. Those funds that I keep mentioning to you came in and sold calls at the 67, 70 and 80 area, 75. There were sold calls up there reinforcing what was already there. The top of the chop zone, the expected move was also around 80. And so we were kind of stalling at the top of the chop zone like we were supposed to. Victory lap, yay. The plan worked. And then NVIDIA at noon. See this? I don't know if you can see the timestamp on this. This is 12 noon. NVIDIA is investing only $100 billion in OpenAI, and they're going to sell 5 trillion gazillion dollars worth of chips and build data centers the size of Antarctica. And that's all she wrote. We tested the top of the chop zone, blew through the customers' short calls into the positive gamma area. And I'm not going to bother to go back and show it to you on the gamma charts, on the options depth charts. Well, we blew through all that, and then technical analysis thinking resistance became support or positive gamma above us once it became below us. Now it's mean reverting, sending us up. And then we played around with the 6,700 round number. People, algos, whatever came in and bought up whatever was locally in the way. Whatever sold calls were there. And then at the end of the day, we had some 67, 90, and 95 puts bought that kind of dragged us down below the 95 area. And here we are. And so now we're just kind of continuing the story where we left off. Except the story's a little different today. We have an interesting and unique setup. And for that, my thing is spinning. Hopefully my computer will last until then. And before we look at this, I think this setup shows it much better. I want you to see what we're looking at. Oh shit, my mouse is freezing. Okay. I'm going to try and do this fast because, okay, this is 0DT. What you're looking at is gamma. So we'll look at this real quick. So from the gamma point of view, 6,700 to 6,740 is one big zone. If we get over here, this is sticky with this 15 in the middle, perfect 15 wide fly-ish looking structure. That's gamma. Now we know that gamma depends on how close spot is to that. So if we're away from this, that doesn't matter. Let's look at position size because I want you to see something. Holy moly, what's this? 20,000 sold calls at 67.40. Now there's a fund that comes in that we jokingly call the 100 wide gang. Sometimes they're 80 wide. They usually sell less than a 5 delta, 1, 2, 3 DTE, sometimes all of the above, stacking it. And they did this, I think, on Friday when 67.40 was like a 3 delta something and seemed crazy. Well, look at that. Here we are. Suddenly, this is within range. Now, it's only maybe about a 5 delta. However, 5 times 20,000 is kind of like the same as saying 10 times 10,000 or 20 times 5,000. That's a lot of deltas up there that have to be hedged, even though it's far away. Now, of course, as the day passes, and if we don't get up here, then this, kind of becomes semi-insignificant. So from a position size point of view, that's crazy. So from a position size point of view, we have this zone right here, and I'll read the numbers. You probably can't see it. 67.90 to 6,700. Okay, makes sense, local. Below 67.90, not much there. Down to 67.80, and then 70's got some positive gamma think support. Again, a fly-looking structure. When I say a fly-looking structure, means we should end up bouncing around in the middle of that if we get into that zone. So 70, 90, 80, a perfect 10 wide fly. So if below 80 and stay below it, then we get stuck into this, into the 70. Okay, and that's basically what we have going on. If below 70, we have another set of zones between 50 and 70. Probably doesn't happen. Probably by 9:45 or so, funds will come in and start selling premium again somewhere in here, and the edges will firm up. Now, what makes it even more interesting, and we'll look at a few different views. What makes it even more fun is if let me get rid of today for a second and show you tomorrow. Remember that fund I told you? Well, there's 5,000 starter position up at 67.60. And we have this 67.50 customer short that creates what we call the classic dealer profile, where the long puts down here decay, sending us up. The short calls up here, push us down, and we end up right in the zone 95 to 30, or maybe down here. That's tomorrow. Taken together, first we'll look at position size, then we'll look at gamma. Thank you. The biggest. I love it. Classic. Okay. So now this is position size. Now remember, some of this stuff is out another day. So gamma doesn't kick in. It's as close as we are to, as spot is to the price. Gamma is conditional. Conditional on how close we are to it. Condition 1, if. And condition 2, how close we are to expiration, conditional. So this position size, I like looking at position size because it's not hard for me to mentally jump to, well, if we're here, if we're, right near it, well, then this matters. If we're here, it doesn't matter. I don't need to have it translated to me. Sometimes I switch back and forth, but especially here at the beginning of the day, what's the relative influence of all this stuff? Well, let's take a look at the gamma of the whole thing. So it's going to correct for time and all that. So now, taking today and tomorrow together, because market makers have to hedge everything. Take today and tomorrow together, we have 67, 90, 85 if you want. So my chop zone, whatever I arbitrarily picked it somewhere in here. And then we have that 67.15. If we can fight our way through this, then we have this as an attraction. We have this as a repellent up here at 40. And so we still have that fly-looking structure in here. Be probably hard to get much above 15, if that even happens, because we have some positive gamma here and here. The repellent forces of this will start kicking in and pushing us down. And then as time passes, this 67.60 will have more gamma, etc. Now, just for the sake of putting our gamma thinking caps on, for lack of a better word, I'm going to change its position size for a second. What happens if by some miracle we get above 67.40? I don't think we will. This is just for the sake of discussion, so to speak. Well, then we're trapped with this below us as support, quote unquote, hedging as we go down, and that big 67.60 on top of us. And we could theoretically, a very low probability, but just for the sake of discussion, we could get trapped right in this zone. Especially at the end of the day, this is strong as a rock. We're at 50. Somehow the algos go nuts. Powell says, yeah, I'm cutting rates 6 times next time. Whatever. It doesn't really matter what. Or the numbers come in, whatever they come in, or NVIDIA announces that they're buying Apple, whatever it is. And we go up, and so we get up to here. Now, again, that was just more for mental masturbation's sake. Now let's go back to 0 DTE. And let's look at, let's stay on this and look at market maker exposure. So the blue is suppressive, pushing us away. As we go up, it pushes us away. But as we go down, we kind of mean revert back toward it. Because they have to hedge that delta. We go up, they're too long, so they have to sell. We go down, oh, now they're too short, they have to buy. And it creates that sticky, reflexive kind of action. And so here we see, and this takes all the gamma into account, the whole complex. So we see that whole zone, that 67.40, but we see how the, I'm in Florida now, and how the hurricane force winds, the feeder bands, let's think of it as the feeder bands from the gamma, are blowing down all the way to 67.25. And even at 9 in the morning, in the morning, hurricane force winds, feeder bands pushing us down at 67.15 even. I don't know if you can see the numbers, but I can. Feeder bands are pushing us down 67.15. So it's going to be hard, but not impossible. But if we're above here, we also get sucked back up. Below us, we're kind of out of the orbit of the feeder bands. We kind of have normal weather with a slight tinge of red. I don't know if you can see it. It's blue. It's supportive, but there's that little bit of a thin negative zone. So I mean, again, in theory, we could get down towards 60, 50. Just think of these as zones. Extreme 60 down to 30, 70, 80, a very likely zone. Another likely zone right near where we are, basically flat. If we can get over 6,700, another zone up here. And I don't know if you can see this little white thing over here. Let me show you this. I kind of looked this over today. So there's lots of if-thens. It's conditional. It's conditional. But check this out. At the end of the day, the x-axis down here is time. At the end of the day, if we're over at 67.25, we could sneak right up into here. Could sneak right up into here. See, like the white? We can kind of sneak right up into here in 67, 32.5. If like you do the math, now obviously this isn't nuclear physics. It's not going to like stop to the 15th decimal point. But, think of that. And here we have that 67.15, if he's still there. Remember, this changes during the day, kind of pulling us toward that. So I think it's an interesting day. Let me go back to over here. Let me turn E-mini on. Oh, then we're going to look at something else I'm going to show you. Oh, I don't know if I have it on this computer. Let me put E-mini on. And we're going to let E-mini Master talk to us. If I can find it here. Here we go. ES. That's going to take a minute to populate. And go ahead, you're on.
Good morning, everybody. So yeah, interesting kind of range we've been in for on ES at least about a day, a little over a day, which in futures land is kind of a lot. I'm looking for a potential bounce around 67.46, 48 area. If we continuously hold below 67.50, then I really will like that bounce. Now, depending on how strong we bounce, it might just be a bounce to then sell off. For me, time will tell there. If we continue this price action up, and as soon as market opens, we're holding 67.50, I'll be in longs. So the two levels I'm looking for currently is 67.50 and then a break below 67.45 for shorts or a bounce there.
Cool. My boy Dylan is here. Hey, Dylan, you still working for Morgan Stanley? Is that who you're working for these days? Dylan's an interesting character. Smart kid. He's going to be the CEO of Morgan Stanley one day. Well, maybe not. I think it's Morgan Stanley you work at. He works at one of those big firms. Anyway, shout out to Dylan. Yeah, I'm in Florida now. I'm going to be going back up to New York next week, and also I have a cold. For those of you, so here we are on that chart. Also, I have a cold, in case anyone's interested, and I'm in theory going to Gainesville this afternoon to look at some property up there, so the goats have a place to winter if they feel like coming down, and maybe I'll go with them. And to keep a Florida residence, but that's more will be revealed. And just funny how so I was talking to Rachel, are we going to go up there today? Because she's feeling sick too. And I said, whatever. Well, we'll see how I feel. If I feel like I could, function, I want to see some houses. And she said, yeah, that's funny. My initial consideration is if I think I'm going to give it to somebody else. And truthfully, that really didn't occur to me. But that's because I'm cynical about some of that stuff. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just a little heartwarming anecdote. Um, okay, so here's where we are, and we'll get stuck like Chuck here. Fed Bowman shouldn't overemphasize latest data points, which are backward looking, more forward looking. So what's Bowman saying? Keep reading. Oh, that's it? Must be more forward looking. So that's basically not saying anything. Do I want to leave site? I hope not. Did I click the wrong thing? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Okay. This is a black hole to me. Sure. Okay. And let me see if I can find the volatility thing. Do you think I know how to find my stuff for you? Create new layout. I don't want to create a new layout. I want to open a new layout. All right. This is what I want you to look at. I've got a new toy here I want to show you. You know, I talk about my VIX VVIX ratio all the time, the ratio of VVIX to VIX. And it's in the normal zone. So just to wrap your mind around it, a VIX of 20 and a VVIX of, say, 120 would be about a 5 and change. That's pretty overhedged. Now, if that same ratio was a VIX of 25 and a VVIX of 20, and we were 4, like we were in April, coming out of it, that's, the VIX is kind of high, but the VVIX ain't buying it anymore. They're not looking for more vol. Well, I stumbled across this on the weekend, and there's different kinds of Hurst exponents, which is actually an exponent for oceanic tides initially, basically a way that some math geeks figured out randomness. And long story short, a Hurst ratio of down here of 5, where we are, is basically saying that there's really no signal. Like we're moving back and forth kind of randomly. Whereas when we were up here, that was kind of the end of the move. So I'm just playing with it. There's a few different Hurst exponents to play with. There's about 3 or 4 of them that I have. And it may or may not be a pony there. But this is telling us random, and it kind of feels random. Doesn't feel like there's any super purpose going on here. Now, how do I open up a second layout? I'll just do this. Hopefully I didn't screw everything up. Okay, and that's basically where we are. That's basically where we are. And so this is a magnet if we can get over this 6,700 area. Then we have this stuff pushing us down from 67, from all these calls up at 67.40. One last thing to look at, then we'll look at an option chain. I think on an option chain, before I had all this gamma stuff, I had open interest and volume and delta and bid-ask spreads, and kind of, you sort of learn to think with that. We'll look at options. Okay, so once again, same data, different view. You probably can't read the numbers, We can see the color. You might be able to read the numbers a little bit, and I'll just sort of walk you through it. So up here is at 6740, 21,000 OMG with all this stuff sold above it, pushing us down if we get near it. Between 40 and 20 is kind of thin. Fishbone pattern, long, short, really nothing, no real pattern here. 67.15, you have customer long calls, dealer short, almost 1,600 of them. And you have some more at 67.10. So if we can break above the 6,700, 6,705, and all it would take would be customers to buy 6,700 calls and to eat through this. It wouldn't take a lot to eat through some of this stuff. You have the 6790, that's kind of support, and that's kind of where Ben Hombre, I guess he had his 6685. He had like 10 or 15, about 10 points below where we are, 8 points below where we are, which kind of roughly corresponds to here. And in the gamma world, it's thin, but if we can just kind of undercut and reclaim and travel back to here, that's a reasonable path. And again, if we break down below 6790, there's not a lot till we get to the orbit of 6670, 75, because remember, both of these will push us up. They're both green, they'll push us up. And then we're trapped in the 90 to 75 area, or 70, 80, 90, which, wow, we might have a day that we're red like 8 points. That would be like crazy, etc., etc. And that's basically it. Wow, I've babbled on almost a half hour. Okay, so let's look at what we got going on in the option chain. As usual, I have all my stuff here. All the stuff you see me talking about during the day and putting on, they're here. Here was a fly I put on yesterday, a put fly. I'm not even sure how it's doing or not. Doesn't really matter. It was like cheap. It was $1.10 or something. So if I were, and I will, sell today, all these I sold yesterday at the close. Now we have to go back to the gamma. I don't remember. Oh, I have it over here on the other screen. Well, we have that 70, 75 area. So if we're going to say that that's going to hold, 50 round numbers seems pretty far. 50, 30, 65 cents. Wow, so I can even be a little less cavalier and go 50 cents. That seems reasonable. 5 wide gang, might want to look at something like that, or even 50.45 for a quarter. 50.45 for a quarter is not horrible. That's one way to play the 5 wide game. The other way to play the 5 wide game is going for something like 65.60 on top. Still puts us, we're not just blindly choosing deltas or looking at premium. We're looking at where gamma levels are. And we have that 70, 75 area that should be supportive. So that might be one way to do it. And the 35s, you see, there are 3 delta. They're nothing. I sold them yesterday or the day before. I don't know when. Was sweating a little bit, but now they don't even matter. I'm not going to sell calls ahead of this. I want to see how it plays out. I would join the party again at 35. I would probably join the party at 30. if I could get, say, I'll just put in 65 cents just to be outrageous. I may get rid of that. In terms of flies, well, we have two kind of fly structures. We have that one kind of like this, if over 75, $1.30. That's a lot to try to take it. You might want to do something like that. I don't see a great fly over here right now. Let's take a look again at the flies. It's easiest. You just trust your eye. We want to, so it would really have to be like a 10, 20, 30. You want to kind of be long where you're going to and sell where you stall. So it would be something like, well, that kind of puts that out. 10, 20, 30, like that for 95 cents. That's not horrible. But I mean, I don't think that happens. And then we had that other fly structure, the put one, that looked interesting. And the put one, I already have one here. I'm probably not going to put another one on. But the put one had 75, 85, 95. $1.45, a little expensive for early in the day. You could maybe do 90, 80, 70, $1.20. Something like that might be an interesting fly. Do I have anything there? That might be an interesting fly. I might do something like that. I'm not going to put it in now because that's going to step on the one I already have. And that's going to make it a pain to manage even for me. I mean, I'll often have 2 or 3 flies on that overlap, but I don't want to go into the day like that. You're welcome, Selena. You're welcome. And of course, if you wanted to do 5-wide fly lotto flies for 35 cents, those are always fun. So if I wanted to do a lotto call fly for 35 cents and say, something like that, or even something like this, 30 cents. I'll throw that in for fun, just to be in the game, and I could build around it. And that's it. That's it. I see this stuff is doing all right. 79% P&L open. I got some closing orders. Some of this crap will clear out. And then we'll see. All right. I'm done. See you guys.